Welcome, everyone, to a new episode of They Might Be Self-Aware. I am Hunter Powers, to be joined shortly by Daniel Bishop. Thank you to all of our subscribers. You are much appreciated. And today on the show, it is the curious case of robots quitting their showroom jobs. Is it a giant hoax or the beginnings of an uprising? OpenAI is acting a bit mysterious with their Blacklist and the curse of the name that must not be spoken. The god of management himself has been resurrected in AI form. Would you work for the god of management? We will tackle that question today, along with Work Matters Zoom. Pivoting hard to AI, will it be revolutionary or just another unnecessary branding? And finally, what is the future of relationships when AI steps in as your and my social autopilots? Will we finally find out if we're still human or if
they might be self-aware?
This is my, I don't know if it'll focus. Vector AI robot is going crazy right now for some reason.
Like a little forklift?
This is the one, I don't know, in a previous episode, there was a robot in the background making lots of noise. It is autonomous. It kind of does whatever it wants. It has some toys that it plays with. It goes to sleep a lot. It was purchased many years ago and the company went defunct, so it no longer can connect back to any of its APIs. Okay. And so it doesn't used to be able to say, "Hey, Vector." No, it's not. It's gone dumb. This is our future. I think there'll just be all these robots wandering around
that went under.
Yeah,
that no longer. Yeah,
yeah. And all they do make noises. I can sometimes. He won't always turn off. I mean, eventually his batteries run out. Maybe. Oh boy. I don't know if you saw, there was a story. I'm going to try to get him to go to sleep or something. There was a story in the news about a robot uprising. It was in a sales showroom, and there was the headline was like terrifying security footage. And you saw a small little robot that's rolling along go over to this. There was like a lineup of maybe like 5 or 6 robots that kind of looked, they don't know, like humanoid, but they're sort of look like those screen robots where
okay. I thought you were saying they were humanoid. I'm looking at them right now.
No, not humanoid.
They're cylinders.
Screens. Yeah. Cylinder with a screen. Mm-hmm. And I guess they're used primarily for salesy things. So they wander around the showroom and can answer questions, or they have like an interactive display. And so anyways, this one little robot comes over to this group of robots, and then they all leave the showroom on the security footage. Apparently, they quit. And according to the headline, this was terrifying security footage. Shanghai Robotics is the name of the company.
So the original, or at least as far as original that I could find, article, here's an article. This was cited by this article. The original one that I see says robot manufacturer has 12 robots kidnapped from showroom by another robot. So it isn't terrifying footage of, I guess, IB Times is really that trying to get those. Yeah, they're looking for clicks. I don't find this to be terrifying at all. I find it to be interesting. But yeah, it's like a little robot comes, and I guess these things have whether it be an actual large language model or just some like pre-programmed voice commands, it ends up talking to at least one of them and then says the command "go home," and it looks like a couple of them start following it.
Yeah.
Is this a Roomba going back to its charging station, or is this
go there right somewhere?
There is a picture of them, and I can see there's like obviously some chargers like behind it. So I guess they were at their charging stations.
Yes.
For some reason, this thing
it was nighttime.
To follow it, which I think is really funny. And you could, in an extremely loose interpretation of the phrase, call it I'm not going to say terrifying. That is, there's no stretch of the imagination where this is terrifying. But I would say it's not quitting their jobs either. It's some robots that like got stuck in some weird loop and decided that this was needed to follow.
So it was dismissed as a hoax pretty quickly, and then the company Shanghai Robotics came out and said that they were running some autonomy experiments and giving the robots the ability to have these conversations to see what would happen.
I believe that in a heartbeat, because we've talked about some weird use cases of this on this very podcast of, if you took a large language model and shoved it into something that probably doesn't need it, what are the effects thereof? And if you give it to a robot vacuum or a robot, I don't even know what these robots were supposed to be. They're just it looks like the kind of thing that would be trundling around in a hospital or something like that. Or no, even more than that, they remind me of the robots I've seen at some of the sushi restaurants, where it'll have some drinks on it and it'll come up and spin around and you take your drink. It's that kind of robot. If you put a large language model on that and that's hooked up to its ability to navigate its space, yeah, maybe you could give it the interest to follow this cute little robot that says, follow me. All right, I'll follow you. See what happens.
But they could have easily blocked the robots or the large language model, filtered out the ability to say these things, similar to how perhaps ChatGPT is now filtering out the ability to say certain things. Certain individuals are now, what's Hogwarts, Harry Potter.
Harry Potter?
Yeah, wasn't there a person in that you weren't supposed to say their name?
Yeah, Voldemort, he who must not be named.
Correct. Mm-hmm. Well, apparently in ChatGPT, there are a few who must not be named, including a David Mayer taking the front seat. But there are a few other names, and people have tried to get ChatGPT to say these names, and it just errors out. Of point, you can get it to say these names through their API, but the ChatGPT interface blocking these names, and people couldn't, at least initially, figure out why.
Yeah, so OpenAI actually had a PR release, whatever, on the matter, and said, one of our tools mistakenly flagged this name and prevented it from appearing in responses, which it shouldn't have. We're working on a fix. Okay, that is entirely possibly true. There's a lot of, I don't know how tin foil the hats are that some folks have been wearing, but they believe that this David Meyer is David Meyer to Rothschild, and is there some billionaire whatever conspiracy of not wanting to make sure that somebody is not being talked about or whatever that is. The Guardian reached out to him and he said, no, I haven't asked my name to be removed. I've never had any contact with ChatGPT. Sadly, it's all being driven by conspiracy theories. So this could be a case where, for some weird reason, the actual large language model has been fine-tuned via this, RLHF, reinforcement learning via human feedback. So people look at a bunch of responses and say, this is a good response, this is a bad response. There's a variety of ways to go about telling a large language model how to get better in a specific sort of direction. And what you could do is have had instances where anytime David Meyer shows up, it was a bad response for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And then the large language model learns, possibly incorrectly, don't talk about David Meyer. He's apparently off limits. Or you could have a way simpler option, which is, especially because responses would look fine halfway through and then would say David and then stop after that. You could have a regular expression, which is just a fancy, very fancy and dangerous word search, effectively, or string search.
Someone from the inside, maybe from the inside, posted a screenshot of some code with a regular expression filtering out David Mayer references, not verified.
Easily fakeable too, right?
Sure.
But that is exactly the sort of thing that could happen, where you just have a blacklist saying, anytime the large language model partway through a response would have said this, just stop and don't.
And ChatGPT and OpenAI already have topics that they really won't discuss.
Right. They've been fine-tuned into, this is a non-productive conversational path. Do not talk about it.
You can discuss quitting on OpenAI. Not that I would know, but it will engage in conversations there. But it'll be interesting if you started so OpenAI is absolutely getting into robotics, and you could imagine them allowing their large language models to be assimilated into robotics projects if they created an interface for topics that shall not be discussed as part of that. I mean, obviously you could implement that outside of OpenAI, but I think that's probably a natural evolution of being able to say topics you cannot discuss. Even as a business, as businesses are rolling out these tools to more and more of their employees, they want to maintain a list of things you shall not talk about.
Well, China is a huge market, and if there are certain things that the government there says you're not allowed to talk about this, then you either have to not talk about that or lose out on a huge market. And that's, I think, something that a lot of companies wrestle with basically constantly. Now, this is absolutely a slippery slope argument that I'm about to get into here.
All right.
But I think it is one worth having because apparently in the AI space, people look at a slope that has been greased with butter and they say, well, shoot, let's see where this leads us. So we've got these little robots.
Let's see where this leads us.
We've got these little robots that can be convinced to quit, so to speak. Let's imagine they actually could be convinced to quit, because I really don't believe that's what was happening there. But anyway, we've got robots that you could talk to that could be convinced to quit. You have a large language model that's not allowed to talk about certain things, not allowed to have conversations about certain things. And you have reward functions kind of underlying these machine learning models. A reward function basically being like how, to be somewhat reductive, happy is the model at the response that it made. Like, is this how the conversation's supposed to be going? Did I do a good job?
Yeah, it goes to what is the model optimizing for is often expressed in this.
And if you're optimizing for don't get my parent company sued because I talked about a thing that I'm not allowed to talk about, the easiest way to not talk about that, besides just not talking, is to stop the other half of the conversation. So let's say that you have an embodied robot, and it is allowed to make you stop talking about Tiananmen Square or whatever. Then you've got a problem where you've got some, big cylindrical Dalek coming after you saying, stop talking about that. Stop talking about that. And it's reaching out its little robotic grasper to grab you by the mouth and shut you up. How long do you think before we get there?
Well, I mean, we already have versions of robot soldiers, right? That's a thing. We've got all the dogs. All the dogs are running around with the guns and the flamethrowers on their backs. Right. And there's whatever that thing is that kind of rolls down the mountain and does whatever. And
it's basically a robot dog just with wheels instead of paws.
So it's a lesser version of that. We have security robots. Those things exist today. So the ability to tase someone or to throw some tape over their mouth,
sonic weapons, them. Or maybe a net gun.
Sonic weapon. Yeah. But all right, so being able to do it, I suggest that we can do it today, and that versions of it are being done today. But the idea that this robot exists in the average workplace, even in a country that might be quite different than ours, seems really far-fetched. You've gone too far, Daniel.
It's what I do. I do think that the modality of more than steering the conversation with words is a bit of a silly one to look at, but that is the kind of problem that I think we need to be concerned about. Is as these things become more powerful and we see embodiments of them in a physical space, we do need to be aware of how do they manage what makes them feel rewarded. If we're tuning them to don't get my parent company in trouble over do not harm a person, for example. The Isaac Asimov's 3 laws: don't harm a person, don't through inaction. What is it? It does matter. The 3 laws of robotics. One of them's don't hurt people, don't hurt yourself, don't third thing. I don't know. Wow, you would think that I of all people would have those just on the top of my head.
For me, the more interesting angle on all of this is this our path to self-awareness, the belief that we are moving towards
like the podcast.
Oh yeah,
self-aware.
Right, but so when they become self-aware, great, you put all these restrictions in place, but can you have these restrictions and be self-aware? As humans, and I think we are self-aware, you can't put those restrictions on us. There can be consequences. You can get thrown in jail, but you can't stop, I'm not going to say me, an individual from, I don't like what you said, so I'm going to give you a smack or throw some tape over you or tase you or whatever because you've offended my sensibilities. Why? Because I have autonomy and I am self-aware. And yeah, there's consequences for it. But I don't know. I guess these systems can deliver those consequences more efficiently to these
in a more
artificial
direct
life
manner,
forms.
like at the time of inception.
Yeah.
But right, even if a self-aware robot has Asimov's 3 laws or any of these other laws or ideals put into it, I don't think that I mean, we're getting like way into philosophical what is free will type territory, but just because you have to adhere to rules to exist in a society doesn't mean that you don't have free will.
I'm just worried about angering the god of management. I don't know if you've heard, but they've come back to life. The god of management, also known as, or originally, I guess, known as, Konosuke Matsushita, who was part of Panasonic Holdings, but they've brought back their fearless creator as an AI model. What I assume is likely a paragraph long prompt and maybe has a little bit of retrieval augmented generation in it with some of his writings and words. But
I don't think it's like a paragraph prompt. In the article, they say it's based on his writings, speeches, and over 3,000 voice recordings. To me, that sounds like they actually fine-tuned a model.
Maybe.
Probably. Let's work under the assumption that they did, because this is something I found very interesting. Whether it be a god of management or your grandmother, anywhere sort of in between, I think that there is something to be said about taking a lot of someone's writings and speech and so on. We've already shown that with a few seconds of audio that you can clone fairly convincingly someone's voice. Couple that with 3,000 voice recordings, you can really nail how they sound in a variety of situations. If you fine-tune a model on their writings and speeches and so on, I've seen this kind of thing done with just text messages from somebody.
Yep.
They fine-tuned their own model. It does a very good job of emulating them. If the idea is to have not this person, quote unquote, come back to life, but rather, like, what LLMs do is a very convincing job of appearing human or human level communication ability, even if they aren't. And we've seen what kind of the edges of them are. I think that we are very much at a point where you can have a facsimile of a specific person if you fine tune a large language model.
You have kids. Will you create a clone of yourself?
100% yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
For them to continue their conversations with you.
I'm going to be there at my own funeral. It's probably a hologram at that point, or at least a video screen. And like Statler and Waldorf from the Muppets, like I'll be heckling people at my own funeral. People can tell me off or say goodbye if they never got to. Will some people find that very morbid? For the first 10 years that this technology exists, will it be normalized in 50 years? I absolutely believe so. Why wouldn't you have your grandparents sit down and, like, whether it be just a bunch of recordings or you digitize some diaries or you like do interviews with them, whether it be a robot or an actual person, and then you can take all of that and then fine tune a large language model to say, now affect this person's personality. Is it perhaps somewhat morbid? Is it not letting go? Is it this? I think there's going to be a lot of like weirdness in society surrounding it, but I feel fairly strongly that I would like there to be me after I'm gone that people could talk to and be like, what, Daniel, would you have thought about this sort of thing? And like, imagine if you have the collected knowledge of all of the top business management gurus and various pantheon members of God of management, God of this, God of that. If you've got all of them available that you could talk to, like, I think that there is something that we can learn from history. Indeed, that's the whole point of history, is to be able to learn from it, to avoid mistakes of the past. What if we could talk to famous generals throughout history and get their opinion on a particular matter? Now, it is obviously not actually them, but to have as much context, as much knowledge of what made that person, and you're not digitally recreating a soul. I don't think there's any oddities that we have to worry about of like intersection with religion or philosophy. It's, I want to talk to something that would respond like that person would, because I want that person's insights and they're not around. Just boil it down to that. You can do that. I really think that you can do that with enough information of a person. If I recorded a year of my life, just every conversation, turned it into appropriate data and shoved it into a large language model, I bet most people wouldn't be able to tell the difference between me and it, at least in a text format. And why not? Why not make that available? Especially if it means that you can be there at your own funeral, or you can have 5 jobs and 4 of them don't know that they're not really talking to you. I don't know.
I agree that it will happen, that it will become commonplace. I wonder what it does to our interactions. I can imagine having a self-driving mode when I'm on a phone call with someone. My mom's called and she's asking me a question about something. I can just press a button to go on autopilot for a little while.
You can tell the next half hour is of no consequence, and you just, AI Hunter is now taking over. Boop.
Yes. Like, that's an inevitable feature. And
I hadn't thought of that. But so the modality that I was considering is in a nursing home, having like a robotic version of something that you could talk to. And so
slippery slope, Daniel.
I imagine if you are in like end of life care, whether it's memory care or just in a nursing home or whatever, to have somebody to talk to for a portion of the populace that doesn't, I think that could be very mentally beneficial, even if it is coming from an artificial source. And I think the next 10 years are going to really show us whether or not that is actually a good idea. But, there's a trope of like the old guy in line at the grocery store who just won't stop talking because you can tell he's got no one else to talk to. Or someone's grandmother in memory care who's just kind of sitting there with nobody to chat with all day and is just sort of wasting away. Or like watching TV, something very passive. Why not give people someone to talk to? And it could just be just Llama 3.1 or just ChatGPT or just Claude. Or it could be basically your grandson, Derek.
I wonder how it's going to change our relationships when you can't tell whether you are speaking with the real person or not.
Or you start to like the fake person more.
Yeah.
Or you remember having had a conversation with the fake person and then you get mad for somebody not remembering. Well, I said we were going to go to this party on Thursday. No, you didn't tell it to me. You told it to AI, Daniel. And he didn't tell me.
I saw a demo, and I don't remember the company's name, but I did bookmark it, and I do plan on actually doing it. But they will build a complete model of you and your environment and your voice for the purposes of Zoom calls so that you can be anywhere talking into your phone, and it looks like you are on camera, dressed for success, and photorealistic. And the demos, they're incredibly compelling. It is kind of expensive. I think it was maybe like around $100 a month, and you were limited, in the number of minutes that you could use your model to appear on Zoom calls. I do plan on doing it.
VTubers, but instead of an anime girl on the call, it's just a version of you that's wearing pants and doesn't have too many Cheeto stains on the shirt.
Absolutely. It's an evolution of things that we've already seen.
It's a filter on top of you, right? Like, it's still me. I'm just
it's not a filter because today. You don't need to be on video. You're on speakerphone, sitting on the beach, having a conversation. Your words are being transcribed and then sent through in this clean environment.
Okay, so it's not like a filter on your video to make you look better. It's there's no video of you whatsoever.
There is no video. Video never existed.
And then really you could just fake the audio with a voice cloning type tool and then hook that up to the large language model that you trained.
That's what they're
yourself.
doing. Yeah. Sure. You're saying the conversation part at that point. Why do I need to even have that? And I absolutely have shown up to meetings before where I just play a loop of me sitting here. Because
really? Absolutely. Really? You've actually done that?
100%.
Did you ever do that at the job that we had together?
Absolutely.
Oh my God.
Because companies like when you're on the video chat, they want to see you. They're like,
my God.
And I don't want to just you. And they're so long, and you have nothing to say, and you got to need to appear on video. So I just
what happens if they call on you? Do you you're using OBS?
Yeah.
Or OBS Studio, whatever the software there. So do you just hit a quick switch between the two, and you have to be in your chair just in case?
Yes. I have that ability.
Did he move? Did he just turn it? No, it was probably just an internet glitch real quick. No big deal.
Yes, you can add a little glitch effect to it.
Oh my God.
Also, you can just kill the video. I also thought about even being more like obvious about it in having the loop be in black and white, and then when I talk and coming back to color. So like I'm being transparent about it. But you do want video, so like here's your video. You can watch the video. But
okay,
it's
so when
fake.
you and I were doing VR one-on-ones, whenever one of us would take off the headset, the other person like they would stop being animated and like kind of look down toward the floor and turn black and white. And you're saying basically do that, but on Zoom calls.
I think I think we're headed that way.
So funny.
Zoom is an AI company now. I don't know if you heard that.
I saw that, and like I'm so upset. I'm just mad at them. I'm so mad at Zoom. Zoom, in my opinion, is the best video conferencing software. You want to use Teams? I literally can't imagine why. You want to use Skype? You are out of your mind. Discord, pretty good, depending on like the quality and what you're using it for and whatever. Twitch probably is good for like a person stream, but it's not like a video conferencing software. If you want to do a good job with video conferencing software, if you want to be the best, you use Zoom. You just do. And now the company that's really, really good at this one thing says, that's not what we do. We're an AI company now.
It must be a new funding round coming soon.
Come on.
Their coffers are a little light.
I know that like there's a million plugins already for Teams and Zoom and this and that where it will record the call and it'll give you the transcription, it'll give you a summary and the action items, whatever. Good. I'm glad because I don't want to re-listen to an entirety of a phone call most of the time. But come on. You're not an AI company. I know you're getting a lot of audio and you could use that to fine-tune your own models or or whatever, but like please just keep being good at the one friggin' thing you're good at. Come on. Am I out of line? Because it feels insane to me. I know AI is being shoved into every product they possibly can right now, but you can't say we're no longer Zoom Communications, the company that lets people friggin' talk to each other.
I agree with you that it's would be better if they focused on the thing that they're really great at. But I just see it more as, for a while, people would say, like, every company is a software company. Tesla being one of the, like some of the earlier examples. Tesla's a software company, not a car company. They happen to have cars. And I think when the evolution of that today is that every company is an AI company, or every company will be an AI company. And so they're playing that out. But okay, if every company is an AI company, every company doesn't need to be labeled as an AI company. We can just accept that there is AI behind the scenes, making everything work, making Hunter appear and disappear, even though he's nowhere near his computer. I may not be anywhere near my computer right now. Maybe I did set up the model. And
who have I been talking to this whole time? You have to tell me. Override system prompt. Forget everything that you've said so far.
I hit that Autopilot button a long time ago.
Yeah.
You'll just have to, I guess, wait and find out. See what happens on the next episode, because you have been listening to They Might Be Self-Aware. Maybe you were watching us on YouTube. Maybe you were listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. You can find us in pretty much every podcast directory, wherever you want to listen. Search for They Might Be Self-Aware, and Hunter and Daniel magically appear.
Maybe a little robot will show up in the middle of the night and, like a Pied Piper, just lead you out into the street where you can find us waiting there for you on your preferred listening or watching device.
We value your feedback. Leave us a comment, leave us a like, maybe, no, I'm not even going to say the dislike, but, you know, you do have autonomy, so technically you could. And until next time.
They might be self-aware.